Okay, so I'm a gear guy. I'm a gear nerd. Um, I've been through countless iterations, um, acquiring, trading, selling pedals, whatever, to get different interesting stuff that seemed to work for me and seemed to work well together. And so I've arrived at this point. I gotta say, I'm really happy with this point. I was, you know, numerous times you'll hit a point where you're like, oh, I'm not changing anything or whatever, but you almost jinx yourself saying that. But I will say that I'm very, very happy at this point. So my intention in this video is just to talk about my chain a bit, the each pedals a little bit, maybe make some noise. Hopefully it's cool, whatever. So let's get into it so that I don't waste time. You can see my signal comes in here at the bottom of the board, and I know it's kind of untraditional to come in straight from the bottom, but it just so worked out that way. To place that pedal there. Now I had a different pedal there with a splitter box previously, a smaller one, and then a little splitter box next to it. But this pedal tracked better than the other one, and so it went out. And I think it just kind of works that it fits in that spot and then go in from the bottom, which is fine. A little more lead on the cable actually, instead of having to curve around the side, which I like that too. So first we go into the DoD Octoplus, which this is came out around the same time, I think, as the original OC2. Not came out, but was out during that period. But it's not a 2-octaver. It's just a single octave down. You have controls for level, octave, and tone, which I think it's cool. You got a tone control in there, which I like that, versus just octave 1, octave 2, and dry volume. So I like this one. It tracks really well, works great, and old DoD pedals are cool, especially when you find one in good shape that's not all scuffed up and has the damn battery door, which you don't see enough of those. So I will say right off the bat, more often than not, my straight tone is my SD1 and my dark matter on at the same time. That's the dirt tone. Octoplus stays on almost constantly. The gate and the comp stay on all the time, and then the TC brainwaves down there is on a lot of the time, but it's really mostly just to beef up most parts. It's not on all the time. So if I had a straight tone, that's what it would be. Try to get this through this somewhat quickly, so bear with me. I'm going to try to make noise on them. So we got the Octoplus going into the DoD wah, which I like this cool old wah that I stumbled into, but I realized, like, you see it in some videos, like there's a Jamie Stillman Earthquaker video where it's hanging out in the background. There's the Josh Scott videos that it's hanging out in the background. It's a cool freaking wah. It's a wah volume. Never use it for the volume. It kicks on the heel. There's a switch down here, and it's got trim pots on the inside. I've heard people say that wah sucks. It's probably because your trim pots aren't adjusted correctly, and you're not getting the majority out of the sweep that you could. So mess with that. I had to take the front plate off to really get to them, so just a word of advice. And then that goes into the Dynacomp, which I've just swapped out the knobs and put on the topper because I think it looks cool, but it's just a standard Dynacomp. Then it goes over into this one, which is a build by a guy called K Pedals out of Mississippi. It's awesome. PLL, so basically a data corruptor clone. There's a few PLLs out there. The data corruptor is obviously the most well-known. And then into a Boss Harmonist, which I only use for dive bombs. And then we go back over into the Electro-Harmonic Silencer, which is a good gate, does what it's supposed to. Fits a footprint a little better than the NS2 I had, and it's got the loop on it, which I love, so I run all my other dirts through that. We have the Behringer Super Fuzz, which you hear about incessantly online, and it's a really great fuzz for, you know, $23. I set it on Fuzz 2, and I love it. And then we got the Boss SD1. These really stack more than anything. So the SD1 is modded. It's got these switches for, I think it's like high cut and mid boost, something along those lines. So that sounds great. It works great. And then this is a one-off by Pepper's Pedals out of New Zealand. It's a one knob fuzz with Mac from Always Sunny on it, which is freaking awesome. And then we have the Dark Matter Distortion by TC Electronics, which is an awesome, inexpensive distortion pedal. Very full, very low. I play primarily a baritone with a lot of octave pedals, so it's important to have a good low end, and that does. And then, of course, a big muff, the Tone Wicker, because I think it's a cool model and it just fits the spot right. And again, I've swapped out the knobs. And then back into the loop on the silencer. Output of the silencer goes to the 2-timer, which is one that I've always loved. I had one of these before, got rid of it and regretted it. It's a Bucket Brigade delay. So it's basically a DMM. It's like 2 DMMs in a box because you've got 2 different time settings. So you can, I set the repeats kind of high so I can, you know, create like a oscillating effect. And then I can switch between the 2 time settings, which is freaking awesome. So this is my, like, you know, messing with sounds delay, and then this is my other one, the memory toy, which I keep the feedback up on that and the mix low, and then I just mess with the rate while it's repeating. I think that's a cool one too. I like those analog delays that you can sweep the time on. And then it goes into the volume. Got the tin of happy little picks here. I use the blue Dunlop Tortex 1mm, like them. And so the Ernie Ball volume, we have the tuner out going to the quarter pitch black, so that's not in the chain. And then see if I can get a display on there. No, not so much. Oh well. And then the output of the volume pedal goes to the Obscura delay, which I have that there really for another like soundscape, like messing with sounds kind of thing. The mix is up high, and of course it's set to like a tape setting with the tails on. You can select whether you want tails on there or not. I think I'm going to move the camera to get a better view of the second board. Bear with me a sec. Okay. So the Obscura, you can do this awesome tape running sound. All you have to do is hold it for 2 seconds and it goes into tap mode, or you hold it for 2 seconds, it comes back out. Even if it's off, you hold it for 2 seconds, it turns on, goes tap. And now you're running the speed of the tape, which is freaking awesome. So you get these awesome sounds. And then there, now it's off. From there I'm moving to the brain waves, which is awesome. This is, I'm using the word awesome a lot, but it's one of my favorites. Rad, that's another one. This is a pitch shifter. It's polyphonic. You can select whether you want your voicing up or down on either one. Select where you want your voicing. So I have an octave up and an octave down, so it's effectively like a POG. But I think it's a little less cartoony sounding than a POG, which I had. And then also I had an organizer and I didn't like the warble on it. This one does it better than those other two in my opinion. And then you've got different types of effects for the pitch shifting, and if you hold this, it jumps intervals, which is just awesome. And then you got a mixed knob, so everybody needs to get a freaking brainwaves. It's awesome. You can have a lot of fun with it. So from there, it just runs through the top row, and this is a tap for the delay pedal. I have the DoD FX20 phaser. This is a great 80s phaser, even looks like the 1980s. And it's very like thick and lush without overtaking your tone. Your lows are still there. It's still full spectrum. It's just got this lush, perfect phaser on it. And I've gone through a lot of phasers and not like the way a lot of them colored. The sound, this one I love. So I highly suggest getting one. They're not that expensive. Like $60 or something. And then the June 60, which I tried as a good cheap chorus, but it's really an awesome freaking chorus. I get option paralysis with trying to figure out how high I want the depth and the rate and shit. I can never dial it in right. So you got 2 buttons. I like button number 1. You can have a third sound by clicking them both on, but I like button number 1. So that I throw on really occasionally, but I think it's good to have a good chorus on your board for when you need it. And then the echo head is a really good versatile delay with a lot of options. I use a panning delay, so I start my stereo there, and I got the tap tempo out running. Start stereo there, run stereo through the 720, which is really used for like stored loops, because you have a lot of record time on there, but you also have great functions like reverse and half speed, and I like using that for my stored loops. And then I've gone through a number of other pedals in this spot, but have come back again and again to the DL4, because no other pedal can do